Okay. This is real. We are live, and thanks so much for anybody that's tuning in. You might be in your workday, just taking a little lunch break. That's cool. If you're on the West Coast, that's what you're doing. If you're on the East Coast, hey, it's almost the end of the day. So thanks for joining us. We are so thrilled. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. This is a bucket list one for me. It is Mary Saunders Barton. She is a fabulous music theater teacher, and many other amazing things from New York. So, without further ado, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. So here's a little bit about Mary. We'll bring her on. So bring your burning questions to us. You can pop them in the chat. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube, and wherever you're watching us is just fine too. Pop them in, and I will be sure to ask the lovely lady what you want to know because that's what this is all about, right? Okay, so without further ado, Mary's official bio before we bring her on. Music teacher, educator, author Mary Saunders Barton has done it all, including becoming a top industry advocate for vocal cross training, a Penn State University professor emeritus and adjunct professor at Montclair University's music theater program. Mary currently resides in New York, where she maintains a musical theater voice studio for professional performers. And her students have been seen in all the shows: Wicked, Beautiful, Lion King, Aladdin, you name it. And you might recognize one of her more famous students as well, Natalie Weiss from Breaking Down the Riffs. So I'm super pleased. Mary, come on in. We're going to talk. Here we go. Hi.
Hi. I really like your song, your theme
Oh,
song.
oh, thank you.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
it feels like
It's
a
great.
news show.
It's great. It's a great vibe. I love it.
Well, thanks. I was thinking, I should change it, but maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, I
So
like it a lot
that's very
more.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. You're just a joy and a ball of sunshine.
Oh.
We've just met, and I don't want to hang up with you. So, where I love to start, Mary, with everybody is I always get so curious as to how you came to do what you do. It's a huge question, but
Huge.
music theater coach, author about voice training and the Broadway scene. It's such a passion, and you've got to be driven to make it in that industry. So, how did this start for you? Was it a singing bug when you were little, or walk me
Okay,
through it?
so I can't tell you, in the last couple of weeks, I've had this question asked of me so many times, including I was just in Oklahoma last week, and they said,
Ah,
"Oh, let's have all the students." It was Oklahoma Baptist University, and adorable students, musical theater students, and they're
yeah,
sitting around asking me that question.
of course. We all want to know.
But why would they be that curious about? I don't know. But anyway, I just thought, but
They want to
anyway,
know the trajectory when they grow
so
up.
I am
Yeah.
just gonna say that, sometimes and so of course, it causes me to look at myself in an
Yeah.
odd kind of way. Who was I back then? But the child, the poet Mary Oliver, she says the child is
Mhm.
is one of our main parts. That child never leaves us. And
Mm.
I've been thinking about that all day. So randomly you asked this question, and I'm
Of course
thinking,
I did.
okay, I was at a funeral in Morristown, New Jersey, where I grew up, a couple of months ago,
Mhm.
of a 96-year-old beloved parent of friends of mine that I grew up with. And so there we were, all gathered outside this Catholic church down the block from the house in which I grew up. And all of these people gathered around were friends that I had seen on the street because we just ran all around the neighborhood like a swarm of bees. And they said, "Oh, hi. We remember walking by the house, your house,
Mhm.
and we would hear you singing from the house." Now, this is really a weird thing for me to hear.
What?
Yeah, so what is what I'm thinking. And then it was continuing the entire time because another person said, "Oh yeah, I would walk in to visit your sister who was my friend, and I
Mhm.
would hear you upstairs singing." What? And then
Wow.
one of the sons of this woman who had died, as we were leaving, he said, "Oh yeah, one of my memories is of you singing in the house." So we lived on a street, so everybody could
And you didn't know that when you're singing in your room?
No! No, because I never thought about that kind of thing ever, ever, ever. I
Oh, that's
never thought
wonderful.
about it, and growing up, that's always been, as I
Mm.
became a woman, also something that embarrassed my children. My husband has never said it embarrasses him, but I do not think about that.
Oh.
So sometimes we'll be walking down the street and a song will come to my mind and I will begin
Mhm.
to sing it. So, and then I think, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that.
Oh, I need some of that. How do we get
But
that?
but why I'm answering it the question that way is
Yeah.
because I do believe, because of my age, I grew up in an environment that was not going to teach me the specialty that I ended up being passionate about
Mm.
vocally. I
Mhm.
mean, if you were trained classically, you would have to fend for yourself, which is basically what happened. I was one of those people.
Mm.
So there is a certain element of autodidact. Do you know that term? A little bit in the way I
Yeah.
came to this
Yeah.
because I was completely in love with musical theater from day one. But of course, the
Wow.
ones the shows I heard, okay, you know the shows I heard,
Yeah.
they were Lerner and Lowe and Rodgers and Hammerstein. They were Julie Andrews.
Oh gosh,
I
yes.
know because
Yes.
that was a great model for me and was a model for my voice type, the way I
Mm.
came up, right? And
Mhm.
so I had a naturally blended instrument more or less, which
Wow.
was
Yeah.
helpful because and Julie Andrews being the perfect soprano mix sound, right?
Yeah, she
Because
is.
yeah, and
Yep.
so I used that model to start and
Wow.
sang all of the shows. You know the song uh, "Way Back to Then" from Title of Show. Have you ever heard of that? It's a
Yeah.
riot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she says, "Oh, way back to then," and I'm thinking that was me dancing in the backyard, right? But I wasn't in the backyard. I was in the den, hi-fi in the den, jumping from couch to couch, singing, right? Camelot,
Camelot.
My Fair Lady, all of those
Come
shows,
on.
Gigi, and I ended up. Those were the roles I played when I started. Those were the roles.
Girl, of
Those are
course
my
they
first
are.
roles. They just because you fall into the roles that are a fit, and they were a fit. So
Oh my
that's how
god.
that all sort of began. Then I was in an era where you were not expected to go into the arts, especially if you were a woman. If you were a man, probably that you got the grief from your parents too, mostly. Anyway, I
Yeah.
was a very fortunate person.
Mhm.
And my parents were happy to send me to college and to Europe but not in the arts. No, not the arts. So I ended up being a major in French, if you can imagine, a
Ah,
graduate major in French. I minored
wow.
in music,
Nice.
because you
Through the
can
back door.
minor in music. And then I went to Europe. I went to Paris and I studied French to become a French teacher
Uh,
randomly, even though I adore the language. I mean, I was in love with that too. I love language.
yeah.
And but I studied with a very famous French baritone by the name of Pierre Bernard. And
Mm.
he taught me so much. There is a relationship between even the career I started in performance and my work with him in teaching, just
Wow.
because he was such an old soul and such a
Oh,
loving gentleman. So that was a marvelous experience. Came back to New York, started teaching French at a school in New York City. I got married when I got back. I'd left this fiance home while I went to grad school, and then I came back, got married to him, and started teaching at a place called the Professional Children's School
mm.
near Lincoln Center. And it was not a fit.
I love your
That
honesty.
that yeah, I was teaching, American ballet theater, right? These are young kids
Oh,
girls with legs like 5 feet long, right? And
wow.
and they were just like
Yeah.
rolling their eyes, and I'm thinking, no, no,
No,
they don't want
not
to. They're not picking up what I'm laying down. And you know what? I recognize that makes sense because
yeah.
I was not thinking it was great either. So in the end, I went home again, thought about it, maybe another graduate degree because I was trying to please my family still.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that wasn't a fit either. I went to a friend of mine who was an actor. Said, "Why don't you go down to Herbert Berghoff's studios in Manhattan and take some musical theater classes?" And because there's some great teachers there, so I did.
Nice.
And I spent a couple of months there, obviously worked on all those roles I just told you about.
Yeah.
And then I was cast in Camelot because I started auditioning, and out of town I went. My poor husband was getting on a plane and flying to these places to see these shows because it was all,
Oh my God.
non-union, non-equity stuff.
Yeah.
But it was that experience, that on the job training that I needed, because there was nobody really to give me that information
Mhm.
specifically. I was
Mhm.
studying singing. My mother got me into choir. She got me into voice lessons. I was,
Okay.
again, a very fortunate person for that, from that point of view. So that
Got it.
is sort of the long story, sort of the crookedy way, because I did a lot of those kinds of shows. Came back to New York, and friends of mine who were in shows would say, I have an audition for such and such. Would you mind? Because also I played the piano at that point.
Mm,
Would you mind
mm.
help me with that audition? So, I mean, it
Oh,
was
there it is.
so, I just casual. Sure, sure. What is it? Oh, yeah, yeah. And I began to, volunteer.
I love it. It's
I,
so
I,
organic.
I just
Yeah.
like noticed something, and I said, and I realized that this was fun.
Yes.
I was kind of good at it. I had a feeling for it because, once again, I was feeling what they were feeling, in a sense, in
Yeah.
my own body, that sort of sensory empathy, a little bit about
Yes.
what they were going through. And I loved that. I
Oh,
loved that. So that became something that drove me. So that continued until I started to say, maybe you could pay me like $10.
right. Right.
And then that became this side career.
Oh my
I kept performing, but then, of course, children.
god.
And
Mhm.
you know well what I'm talking about.
I
So
do. Yes.
first child, okay, I did a couple more shows, but I said, nah, that is not going to work.
Oh, wow.
And so then second child, definitely not going to work.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I kept, the
No.
teaching became primary at that point.
Oh, wow.
So what's weird about it, and is that I did not know anything. If you're talking about what you need to
Right.
know to teach
Right.
musical theater singing,
Yeah.
um,
You just knew
what
how to
the
do it.
no,
That's
but
it.
there are things I didn't know, because obviously I had never even considered the notion of belting as a
Wow.
stylistic element of musical theater singing. And by the 70s, that was, Evita started the ball rolling, and um,
Wow.
there were lots of resonance qualities,
Mhm.
strategies that we were starting to use. And I began experimenting with sounds by imitation. Once again, adding that to the sort of autodidact. Okay, so who do you think was my main trainer?
For the belting.
Think about 70s. And the kids were born in the 80s. Think about 80s. But who would
Oh.
I have been imitating like crazy
Oh,
back then
oh,
for
oh.
belting?
Joplin? No. Joplin's maybe a little too crazy.
Joplin, I don't
Janis
even.
Joplin. Oh,
Oh,
I was thinking of
oh,
pop music.
oh,
Yeah.
oh no, musical
No.
theater. Oh, well, no pop, but musical theater.
Music
Pop.
theater. This
Not
is
not
where
really, not really musical theater. Although Don't Rain
hmm.
on My Parade, she did do that.
Okay, Babs. I was gonna say Babs, and I was like, well, maybe belting is a little bit
Totally,
of
because you
course.
listen to her and you say,
What
"The
is
heck is
what is
going
she
on?" Because if
doing?
you listen
Yeah.
to her back in the 60s and 70s, you think, "What is that sound? How can she even do that?" There is no
So good.
separation. The vowels are staying open on many of those ahs and ehs up there, but it seems
Yep.
like a flow,
Yes.
natural, easy flow.
So
So
good.
imitation galore. So that, plus I
Wow.
imitated my good friend, because she also went down to Herbert Berghoff Studios. We're still really good friends. She's a Broadway actor and now living in California, named Alex Corey. That girl is probably the best belter on Broadway that I ever heard.
Wow.
And I also imitated her
Oh,
and admired her so, so, so much. So
wow.
that's the way the information was conveyed back then. But
Mm.
I took that information, then I began very gradually, and
Mhm.
not, and as you say, organically,
Yeah.
to create a um, a way of thinking about it as pedagogical.
Wow.
How do you actually teach that to somebody?
Right.
Is it vowel resonance? specifically what is mixing, all of that stuff. Those became all the questions
Oh my
that
gosh.
had to be resolved and are still in the process of being resolved, as you know. We're just trying to
It
figure out what is going
yeah,
on. But
it's
and we want to
fascinating.
stay healthy. We want to get
Yeah.
everybody to make all the sounds their heart wants to make in a way that they can sustain.
That's it, isn't it? It's the sustainable stuff because a lot of times people experiment with the belt and they're hoarse the next day
Right.
because we just and bless our hearts, we go all in into the
Yep.
sound and we start pushing and get so excited and it's
Yep.
really
Well, it
hard
has
to
really given belting this odd bad reputation
yeah, I know.
because partly it was named that
Mm,
as though it is a very harsh and dangerous path to take. But
right.
we now know that of course it doesn't have to be.
So is belting mixing in
Yes,
your mind? Yeah.
it is.
They're
It
not
is.
they're not different. Some people maintain they're a little different and I was
No, we're
confused by
talking
that.
about vowel resonance. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sticking by this because there is a great difference between a very heavy vocal production. You almost can't do it where you're trying to
Mhm.
separate registers. I
Mhm.
mean, registration power. So
Mhm.
subglottally, you're going to get a belt. So and producing enormous subglottal pressure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or you're doing what I'm doing right now. This is a mixed speech, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
totally is, especially
yeah,
the question marks.
yeah. Ah, so I'm not going to go down to the basement to get it. I'm going to use the basement to help me create the sound I want because I need do you use the terms mode one and mode two?
I'm familiar with them, yeah. So
Okay,
let's
well,
use them.
do you use chest and head? It's fine
Yeah,
with me.
yeah, I use chest and head, yeah.
Chest and head is fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the
yeah,
modes that happened in a in the International Congress of Voice Teachers in Paris,
yeah,
which I happened to attend,
yeah.
there was a presentation that talked about these various modes,
I
vocal
like that.
modes by this French team. So
Mhm.
mode 0 was
Oh, I love this. I should
and
switch to this.
mode 1, well, it's just helpful to think about
Yeah,
vibratory modes.
yeah.
And then obviously the chest mode would have been thick fold action predominantly.
Mhm,
And mode 2 would be thin fold action predominantly,
mhm,
which will include vibrato. So you want to
mhm,
again mix so that vibrato exists in mode 1 as well. And
mhm.
then mode 3, which is basically, as you know, the very thin folds whistle. So
Yeah,
whether or not whistle is just a continuation of mode 2, these things
right,
may not be that important.
right.
But what is important is we do have basically two parts to this voice,
Wow. Wow, wow,
right?
wow. Yeah,
It's two parts.
yeah.
What does Ian Howe say? He says it's broken in a good way, we think, but our
Mm.
job is to put it together. We got to
Oh,
find a
wow.
way to create a continuum throughout the entire range. And that
Yeah.
is a wonderful challenge, an exciting challenge, I think.
Wow. So when you first began teaching this stuff, was this like taboo? Was this unheard of? Were there other people doing it that you were aware of? Did you have support?
The belting
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
I would have to say I felt a little like a missionary once I got to Penn State, but that was 1999. Once I got there, I still felt like a missionary going out because there were
Wow.
people. Well, you realize that the universities. What
Mhm.
university did you go to
I went
in Canada?
yeah, I went to Brandon. They're very classical. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
very, and that was true in
Yeah.
America too,
Yeah.
in the States.
Mm.
So I got invited to Penn State to take up the position of the first musical theater teacher they'd ever had
Oh my gosh.
because
Wow.
they started a musical theater program and they were
Mm.
very smart. They knew they should not people it with just classical voice teachers
Yeah.
because it was
Mhm.
giving the wrong message
Mm.
about the style. So it was that was really the beginning of me of the cross trading notion. Is because my colleagues were so open to what I was doing, and of course I had studied classically, but I didn't know half of what they knew. So they were
Yeah.
teaching me that too. So
Wow.
there was a lot of that. And so if you land in the right place, which I happened to, the door opened
Yeah.
and my whole family walked through the door.
It seems like you are one of those people that continually lands in the right
Right
place.
place at the right time. I said to my husband yesterday, I landed in a moment. I was just lucky. And it
Like,
really was good
ooh,
fortune. That was
ooh,
just good fortune.
yeah.
Just walk through that door. But my older son had gotten into college in upstate New York,
Mm.
but we said, honey, the good news is you're going to Penn State now.
Yeah.
The bad news is we're coming too.
Surprise!
So we all went.
Oh,
But
oh,
and my whole family went, and including my 2 nieces. It was just a big family event.
wow.
But that's where I learned pedagogy, basically. And that's
Oh.
why it was possible to create a musical theater pedagogy program, because the
Mhm,
model was there for classical. So we
mhm,
created, and my colleague Norman Spivey, who is fantastic, helped me devise this program for potential teachers. And we graduated,
mm.
before I retired, we graduated, what, 6 or 7 of them. And
Oh,
they're teaching all over. So it was really
wow.
a marvelous experience for me. I learned so much from those colleagues.
Wow.
It's a great fortune, because you know what? You can't do this alone.
No, the sharing of the knowledge and the crosstalk is invaluable,
You can't do it alone.
right? You can't do it alone. I love that.
You shouldn't do it alone,
You
because
yeah, it's
if you
hard.
close the door and you say,
Yeah.
I know what I know,
Mhm.
don't listen to other people, because I know what I know and I'm going to teach that to you.
Mm.
It's very
Mm-mm.
dangerous.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is what we talk about, you want to be in a constant beginner mindset.
Mhm.
What do you know, and how does that sync with what I understand and have understood? And how do we go forward together?
The beginner mindset. I was just gonna ask, what do you think is the secret to your success? And I wonder, is it the beginner mindset?
You want that wide-eyed, "Oh my god, what'd you just say?" And sometimes for example, my beloved colleagues who are specialists in acoustics,
Yeah.
I just listen to them and I say, "Okay, what?" I have no
There's another level, the production,
It's just,
engineering,
like,
acoustics.
so smart, and, but so many smarties out there,
Ah,
and that isn't
ah,
me. I'm much more of the intuitive. I'm on the
yeah,
intuitive side of things, but
me
I
too.
have learned more, I think, since it all started, and I was singing in my house.
Jeez. I just love that you just break into song walking down the
Oh
street. I
my
need to get some of
god! Can
that.
you hear this? Mom, mom,
Yes. Mom.
mom.
So what one of the big mysteries that I want to unpack and get your take on it, because we talk a lot about, the unblended or the blended voice, pardon me. There's one voice all the way across the register, all the way across. You have one voice, right? You don't have to gear shift into chest versus head and one way to sing. Cross training and all that good stuff is real. So what would you say is the difference between a belt in a high note and a classical approach of more of a head voice tone? What's the difference? How do we get one versus the other?
Space and resonance. Space, which creates the resonance. And I think, for me, I would say registration, which is frequently called the snake pit of pedagogy. But we do
Love it.
want to think about it at the phonation level, at the
Mhm.
laryngeal level. We're talking about, what is the dominant muscle use,
Mm. Mm.
right? So if I'm using essentially thick folds with some thin fold, which we must have to balance the tone going up, or we hit a wall.
Mhm.
So, the only way to get through is to
Yeah.
say, I can coordinate.
Wow.
So the belt up there, as opposed to the head voice, well, you would know, I know you teach
Mhm.
this, is
Mhm.
we're thinking that long vertical, spacious quality,
Mhm.
and we're for the oh, which basically I spent so much time on that side of the street in 2023. I do, in my
Yeah.
studios,
Yeah.
because the young women and the young men and everybody in between, because we're dealing with that too,
Mhm.
um, are their ears are on a more contemporary pop sound,
Yeah.
right? For the most
Mhm.
part in
Mhm.
musical theater.
Mhm.
But if you want to be sure that they have the ingredients for healthy singing going forward, you have to keep the thin fold action going, and you have to
Mhm.
make them fall in love with it. It's a trick.
It's
Let's find
hard.
the rep where you can fall. Honestly, and you're thinking, oh, good, why would you do that with boys? But of course I do it with boys
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think they should be able to sing handy falsetto,
Mhm.
really good
Mhm.
falsetto. It's a
Oh, yeah.
whole song in falsetto. Do not worry
Yep.
about it. Sing in
Mhm.
falsetto. Listen to your pop singers who do it well. Imitate,
Yep.
because it's tricky for some who are genetically big larynges,
Yeah.
lower, and it's harder to get that balance up. But that would
Mhm.
also be true for women who have lower voices. You just got to keep playing with
Mhm.
it and seeing what kind of stretch you can get. But
Yeah.
a belt to me, could use. I just love that Ian Howell called it broken voice. But anyway, the
Yeah.
but the belt is basically a much more divergent tactic, right? You can feel that,
Uh-huh.
and you'll
Uh-huh.
see the mouth.
Yeah.
Hi is a belt.
Yeah.
Ha! And you got to work with that primary vowel sound, because they're all, I say, okay, so what are the belt vowels? What are the belt vowels, and what are they going to say?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Ah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see the mouth go in there. So what other vowels
Yeah.
are going to get the mouth in that position? And that
Right.
helps you recognize the belt vowels.
This is
Ah,
so cool. Yeah.
ah,
Yeah.
eh. And they'll say, oh, A is a belt vowel. And I say, well, how could that be the belt vowel? Because you're ending on E. And that,
Right.
no. So, meaning divergent vocal tract, meaning it's really not a lot of space. It's all in the mouth, right? Which is why you take advantage of twang quality.
Yeah. Twang. That's a big one. What is
That's a big,
twang, Mary? What is
well,
twang in your world?
twang is taking advantage of the narrowing of well, you know about this, right? The
Mhm.
sphincter at the
Mhm.
epilarynx, and also because sometimes we call it nasality, and we call it nasal twang.
Mhm.
But and if you think about who are we talking about? Who is the one who's saying hello? She's a
Oh, yeah,
you know
Carol
what I mean?
Channing?
Well, that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris
Fran
Fran
Drescher,
Drescher. Yes.
right? Yeah.
Oh,
So
totally.
just because a nice way to imitate sounds, and then because I'm goofing on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it is amazing how
Yeah.
all of those like twangy
So
exercises
powerful.
can
Yeah.
help you those sound. Then when we want to make the big old shift and get oh coming out of our mouth, we are making a divergent vocal tract. So that creates that inverted megaphone quality,
Mm.
right, in terms of resonance, so that the
Yeah.
larynx obviously is lower in the vocal tract, and the soft palate, well, soft palate to me, unless I want to include some nasality, but according to my acoustic friends,
Mhm.
nasality is kind of a dead resonance. I mean, actual
Mm.
nasality.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're just
Right.
singing, right. So you got to wake it up with some sound in the mouth. But you can lower the soft palate a little bit. It doesn't have to be, right? You can get the air
Mm.
going through there, or you
Mhm.
can close it completely. Ah, ah, ah. You
Mm.
can fool around with all those
Wow.
levels of right? But
Yeah.
everybody's looking for
Yeah.
the acoustic boost that you get from twang, which is pretty
Wow.
amazing. Because
So amazing.
you go into those restaurants,
Yeah.
I'm always in awe because I just shut up. I just can't. I can't. But the waitress comes up and yeah, she starts talking. You say, why do I hear every word out of her mouth with all that noise? Because
Yeah.
she's got the magic spot.
She's got it. She has
She,
to. She would not be heard otherwise. And kiddos have it too.
I know.
Like, my son,
Oh
I
my
realize how much more resonance I have to
God.
work
Right.
on.
Well, the larynx and the subpelvic are like that. Do you
What is
know
happening?
my little grandson is 6 now, and he
Mhm.
will come up to me, look me right in the eye, and make that squealy, scary sound. He's like crossing his eyes because he knows I'm going to go, ah! And he loves that I have that reaction to it. But it's that high pitched thing. You go, what is that?
What is that?
What is that?
And he's making these, like, very, like, almost like 2 sounds at once, like a Janis Joplin or what I call the pterodactyl because
Really?
it's
Your
just nuts.
your
It's
two and a
just
half year old?
yes. It's wild. There's a whole world that I have no idea what it is.
A
It's
whole
amazing.
world of sound. Well,
It's so good.
do you know Karen Brunson's book about the ages of the voice?
No, but I
Yeah,
need to.
it's very fun. I
Okay.
can send you all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, do. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So oh my God, there's so many places we could go. But the cross training I love because a lot of people think I'm gonna sing pop or I'm gonna sing contemporary music theater and I ain't going to the opera or classical music theater and vice versa. And your approach to voice is why limit yourself? Do it all.
Why
And we
limit?
can learn that.
Why
Yes.
limit? Also, I truly believe
Yes.
you last longer that way. I just
Mhm.
saw on PBS the Hours, which is a new
Mm.
opera. Oh my God, it's so amazing, based on the Virginia Woolf story.
Wow,
But
wow.
Kelly O'Hara,
Mm.
who is really another role model for mixed soprano, in my opinion. And
Oh, nice.
well, do you know the musical Light in the Piazza?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
her performance in that was so breathtaking. I remember going to that at Lincoln Center in New York and sitting next to my husband. And honestly, we felt like we needed to call medevac to get us out. We were crying so hard because it's so moving. But her voice and her spirit were so unified in that. And we
Wow.
looked down the row of audience members, and everybody was in the same place.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not like that sound doesn't carry a lot of emotion.
Jeez.
Yeah, the thing about that,
Yeah.
which I find interesting, is that Kelly, I would have to say, love her, but she basically keeps herself from a belt. So does Audra McDonald to a large degree. So you
Oh.
don't actually hear that resonance in her.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
whether or not that's, I think, I don't know, I couldn't speak for her, but
Yeah.
there are many singers like Jessie Mueller
Oh,
on
I love
Broadway
Jessie.
who will easily make
Love
that
her.
journey back and forth.
Oh, she's
Right.
fabulous.
She is.
Yeah, yeah, and why not show the colors, right? That
Why
gives
not?
you more colors to paint with so you can tell the
Yep.
story. So
I'm
you
all
hit
about
on
that.
yeah, you hit on something phenomenal and there's a lot of things phenomenal about you, but there's a couple things where you stress that play is crucial for the studio. And I
Mhm.
just love that idea because we can get so serious and so in our heads and so disconnected from our bodies and the story. So I'd love for you to talk about the role of play in your studio, but also to that interconnected body, like we're in our bodies, we're telling a
Yeah,
story, and
that's
why
great.
that is just as important as learning how to belt.
Yep. Well, the how has to be on
Yeah.
behalf of, because why would
Oh.
you just try to physically do something that is not related to any activity or any meaning?
Mhm.
So I do think a lot of the answers come from needing to say it a certain way.
Mm.
How can I? Which is why I usually go back to monologues, Shakespeare, elevated speech, because I
Mhm.
was just reading. Do you know about this? Do you know that Northwestern and NYU have paired to help create and have created a device, an app that singers can wear
No.
on
What?
their chest,
Okay.
Bluetooth, to tell them when they are overusing their voice and are in danger. It's quite wonderful. It's not to create
Mm.
fear, but
What?
also, yeah. The thing that I found interesting reading about it, it's Aaron Johnson and it's somebody named Rogers at Northwestern. It's quite brilliant.
Wow.
You haven't heard about
I'm
that?
taking note. No, I haven't. That's
Yeah, that's something to
amazing.
know about. That's something to know
Yeah.
about. Yeah, John Rogers and Teresa Brancaccio, who are at Northwestern. He's a electronical genius.
Yeah.
And Aaron Johnson is an SLP at
Wow.
NYU Langone. So fascinating. So, the reason I brought that up is because they talked about engaging speech as opposed to singing, and giving yourself rests from speaking. So
Mhm.
I would want to have a conversation about that, because when is speaking truly going to cost you vocally?
Right. That's a question.
I think it's a legit question.
Yes.
So, because I think it should relate
Mhm.
to singing, because
Mhm.
I do think si canta come si parla come si canta. Why wouldn't you? Why
Yep.
wouldn't you feel that those two were related? Because if
Mhm.
the airflow is working the way it
Mhm.
should feed both of those uses of the voice
Yep.
effectively.
Yep.
So, yeah. So I feel the reason I brought that up is because I don't think the speaking voice should be considered something other.
Oh, you make me happy because this is my whole thing. I
Yeah.
don't think it's different.
Yeah.
It's the same. We do it the
Well,
same
the
way.
minute you can go and sing what you are just saying to me. You know what I mean? It
Oh, you can
is
sing to me any day.
well, because I said your speaking voice is so gorgeous, and we
Oh.
hear a person's singing voice,
Mhm. Mhm.
don't we? In their speaking
Mhm.
voice. And if the
Mhm.
speaking voice is problematical, I would go there first, wouldn't you? You'd say,
Oh, girl,
okay, what's
yes.
going on? What's happening
Yes.
here? How much range do we have?
Yep.
Can we go down? Can we go
Yep.
up? Is
Yep.
it still feel like you? Who are you? Do you feel like you? Do you feel as though this is expressive of the inside of you, of your spirit? Or
Mm.
is there something not communicating between your speaking voice and who you feel
Yeah.
you are? Because I think
Yep.
that can be a problem with if you're trying to teach
Yes.
somebody to sing and they don't
Oh,
like their speech, where are
no.
you going?
No.
And what this goes back to what you were saying.
Yep.
Then they get all in their head about it.
Mhm.
How often do you
And
hear, I hate my voice? That's
yes, a
like the
lot.
worst thing I could imagine hearing.
A
Because
lot.
that's
You
like
hear
saying
it.
I hate myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. This is the conversation that I'm so obsessed about because we take that out there and we don't realize we're half showing up because we
Yep.
actually are rejecting ourselves at the same time as we're showing up.
That's
And
right.
that's a big one. I
Ah,
feel like that's
so
the
true.
big
Good point.
conversation that yes, that takes
Good
singers
point.
to what makes a star? Someone
Yes,
that can show up fully.
you enter the story. It
Yes.
isn't that you are you exposed, you are
Yeah.
them exposed, but you're using you.
Yeah.
You're using
So
the character, but you're
yeah.
using what you have to bring to that character. And that's what enriches the story, is because no one is like you.
Wow.
So they'll
So
say,
the yeah.
have you, the biggest compliment a person could get is, have you seen her alphabet, for example? Have you seen her
Hello.
alphabet? Not
Wow.
everybody's alphabet is the same.
They're all different. I've
They're
looked at
all
them
different.
all. They're all different. They
Hmm.
sing the same song, but
Yep.
they're all
They're all
different.
different. That's right.
Ooh,
It's
there's only
great.
one you. You're like a snowflake.
That's right. Oh, I love that.
I love that too.
I love
So
that.
the vulnerability piece is a big one for singers, I feel, and I feel like that's the star quality is if you can go into that and not feel unsafe to show that vulnerability,
And
people
that's the
lean
play.
in.
That's the
Yeah.
play. So that's
Okay.
why, and going back to your play thing,
Mhm.
play is like the center of everything, because
Mm.
laughter, and sometimes I start trying to engage them in their laugh to see how they laugh, what they think about their laugh, because laugh is also snowflake, right?
Yes.
Because everybody's laugh is
Yes.
different.
Good
Isn't that
one.
amazing? Well,
So good.
I'm constantly amazed by the fact that everybody's laugh is different, everybody's speaking voice is different,
Yes.
right? Your
Yep.
friend comes in downstairs
Mhm.
and you hear the voice and you know immediately
Know them.
as a
Yep.
voice, it's a voice print. And there's a laugh print too, which is also, part of speech, but laughing helps engage in the connection to body, which is what you were talking about, because then
Mhm.
you can't laugh without, it's a belly laugh. Can't laugh
Yes.
without that transverse abdominis getting involved,
Yes.
right? And you're going to
Yes.
feel it. And it helps you let go of other things. That whole feeling that when you laugh, people say, oh my God, I feel I'm weak because I'm laughing,
Mm.
because it is an ultimate relaxer.
It's so good.
Right?
It's
It's
so
so
good.
relaxing. It's the best. And finding that belly laugh also when you get, and some singers, speakers, humans don't really
Yep.
have a true belly laugh, or they
I
laugh
know.
in mode two in their soprano, which is great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you do want to connect to the low, even when you're doing the giggle high, because you want
Yeah.
them to feel the release in the body
Oh,
that
wow.
that promotes, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's a playful thing too. And then
Mm.
also the whole notion of improvising ideas and thoughts as we go along, because that's where the acting component is
Mm.
play also.
Mm. So how
That
do you work with people that are they have this big dream and they've done Broadway, but they're just not seeing the success, and then you find out that they're somewhat blocked in being able to show themselves. How do you encourage them to step fully on stage? What are some of the things you might do or
oh
say?
my gosh,
Big one. I know. Case
that's a
by
big
case, I
one.
realize.
No,
Yeah.
that's going to make me really think, because I'm thinking about master classes I've done in the last couple of weeks
Yeah.
where a student got up and was trying to do something right in front of me.
Oh, dear.
You know what I mean?
Kiss of
Well, it's
death. Yep.
perfectly understandable.
Yes.
Um, and I'm thinking about boys who are really feeling like, oof, I can't be exposed in this.
Mhm.
So how do you find a way? So usually the only way to cut through that is to get them laughing, either at themselves or some situation with
Mhm.
their peers, not laughing at them, but that the
Mhm.
whole group is laughing together because something is just so goofy.
Awesome.
It's a group thing. If you're talking about a group thing,
Yes. Yeah.
if it's just you and them, you still got to find a way. I
Yeah.
love laughing, and I think laughing is a great antidote to fear and
Yeah.
anxiety,
Yeah.
because if somebody
Mhm.
laughs, I'm sorry, you're exposed now. You just
You
laughed.
are.
You're exposed. I just see you now. I'm
And
sorry.
disarmed.
I see
And
you.
disarmed too. Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. So
Yeah.
then usually you can kick on out of that and to say that, oh, that's our starting place, because you know
Wow.
where your humor is. You know what makes you laugh,
Oh.
right? And then we have the whole process, which you know, and I'm not an acting teacher, God knows, but every singing teacher has some element of that, because we're working as a village, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they bring their acting issues into your sessions, and you think,
Mhm.
okay, how do we just let go for a moment and just use our imagination to access emotion? The
Mm.
younger, we were talking about this just this weekend. I was with my family and all the babies, I was telling you,
Yeah.
and we're
So
sitting at the
cute.
table and we are talking about the fact that teenagers have a more limited palate, let's just say,
Yes. Yeah.
than
Yeah.
say someone at my age would have,
Yeah.
because they're experienced. They haven't had a baby. They hopefully, I say hopefully, haven't
Mhm.
experienced serious trauma. They've
Mm.
just been kids. Let's just hope that.
Yes.
And let's just say that kid. So that kid mostly is going to be able to show us anger,
Mhm.
sarcasm, right? You know, right? All of those things,
Yes.
as opposed to if something a little more nuanced or deep.
Yeah.
But as they mature and start exploring, they discover more about themselves and what they have inside of them to
Mm.
express character.
Mm.
That goes beyond those two
Yeah.
things. I see those two things the most, though.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You hit on something huge is the trauma. Like we the number one thing that we as singers need to know is we come as a human instrument. We can't just pick up the guitar and plunk it and it sounds the same each time. We come as a human,
Yep.
and sometimes we're feeling all kinds of stormy weather or happy or sunny or whatever is going on. And we somehow have to access that awesome
Yep.
no matter what is happening in our day.
Yep.
So, is mindset, and imagine I know the answer to this question, is mindset something that you really work on with all of your singers?
Well, if somebody has a real problem,
Mhm.
I won't pretend that it's not there with them. I wouldn't want them to even do that.
Good. Yeah.
I think it would be dangerous. And also, I think we have issues now, and I'm sure you've confronted them with
Mhm.
some rather challenging cases of trauma, anxiety,
Mhm.
suicidal ideation, even in our young musical theater performers. It's just
Yeah.
in our world right now. It's
Mhm.
in our world. And I feel as though I would want to direct them to help.
Mhm.
And then this is what I'm going to say.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that I feel that my contribution can be to point them to singing as an antidote, as a help, as a way to soothe,
Mm.
because it will do that. First of all,
Mhm.
you're going to have to leave your own problems if you're
Mhm.
going to be singing on behalf of someone else's situation.
Wow. Yep.
You just have to, and that might be, I don't know. I mean, this is just me thinking
Mhm.
what be useful. But also we have the marvelous vagus nerve. We have ways that making these sounds can take anxiety away and soothe, and that's what the whole
Mhm.
meditative aspect of singing can be for us.
Mhm.
So I think it's a
Mhm.
gift. It's a huge gift to
Oh,
be able to sing. And I'm
yep.
sure I was doing that for myself when I was just a little girl in my house in Morristown, New Jersey. I didn't know it. I had no idea, but
Yeah.
it was just incessant. But I
Wow.
must have, and I had all these little stuffed animals. I mean, I'm talking when I was 8, maybe 7, millions of stuffed animals. I made up a language and I sang to them all. I'm
Oh,
sure
wow.
incessantly. I'm sure they
Yeah.
loved it. I'm sure they loved it, but it must have been a way of self-soothing because
Wow.
I was an anxious little girl for my
Mm.
own reason, whatever. I just
Yeah.
was. I just
Yeah.
was. I want to
Yeah.
be perfect. I wanted all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
In kindergarten, I want to be perfect. And I have students who want to be perfect.
Yes.
They want to be perfect. And there is no art that way. There is no
Oh,
successful artistic
no.
fulfillment
No.
or even expression if
Mm-mm.
that is the goal.
Mm-mm. Agreed.
So, yeah.
And love their hearts because they think the way to that fulfillment is perfection. So it's just misguided.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
Yeah.
we can help
Oh,
them with that. That we can help them
oh,
with.
that you can help them with.
Yeah.
You've hit on so many. I'm gonna have to have back for 6 more shows because like, vagus nerve, oh my god, that's a whole, like, wormhole, and it's so fascinating, and I
Yeah.
love that you're working on that and that's in your know
Fascinating.
and you're doing
It's
that stuff.
fascinating.
Where I wanna go, though, is, like, the bucket list things that people are thinking about is what is vocal health like and a vocal routine like for a Broadway star? So, what are some of the vocal health tips that you encourage your singers to take on? Is it salt gargles? Is it throat sprays? Is it obviously water? Silence, days of silence? What are we talking here? What does it look like?
The silence part is good.
Mhm,
Knowing because some excited performers, because it's an excited group of people demographically,
mhm,
um, don't know when to be quiet. However,
mhm.
once you get to a certain point, you learn that because you won't progress. So the sprays and the lozenges and stuff like that, um, that's for throat,
Yeah,
but that's certainly not going to have an effect on the actual vocal folds. So
right.
mist would, but and misting is great. I
Mhm.
think it is absolutely critical to be hydrated. Who is not going to say that? Yeah, got to be hydrated. So
It's so simple, but
hydrate. Well,
yeah.
on my door at Penn State, so I don't know where this came from, but it was
Hydrate.
this crazy sort of dinosaur that was completely desiccated, washed up on shore or something, and underneath it said hydrate. But but it is really critical to hydrate. So
Yeah.
I'll just say, take that. Then you got to know your voice. You got to know what you're up against.
Mhm.
Penn State, we've had several students doing alphabet. One of them just rotated off the roll, literally now on Broadway.
Wow, wow,
And
wow.
she did a fantastic job. But there is no question it
Mhm.
takes its toll. It
Mm.
takes its toll. And
Yeah.
you have to be a nun. Well, you
Vocal
kind of do.
athlete. Yeah.
I do remember. Well, you have to just go home
Yeah.
and then go do your next show. And then you have to, the other thing that's really key is you have to call out if you don't feel up to it. And a lot of
Mm.
artists do not call out. And Broadway producers, they they're expecting a great deal out of someone doing a role
Yes.
like that. You know
Yeah.
that. That
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy because it's just a horrifically difficult role.
Yeah.
It's also a thrilling role to do. And if you have the chops right, and this Talia Suskauer just rolled off that role, had exactly what it takes to do the role and do it successfully for a year. And
Wow.
every Elphaba basically rotates off after that. It's just smart.
Smart.
It's
Smart.
just smart. She toured before a little bit, and then the pandemic, and then she was invited to do
Right.
it on Broadway.
Right.
But she did a fantastic job. And then we have
Yeah.
who else we have from Penn State? We have a student by the name of Caroline Bowman, beautiful performer. She
Mhm.
also did Elphaba on Broadway, and the young Talia came to see Caroline when Caroline did it when she was a freshman at Penn State. Is that a
Oh my
riot? And so her doing it
gosh.
said, "Oh my God, I want to do that. I want to do that. I need to do that." And then she did it. And
Oh,
they began to Caroline mentored her. I think that's a
wow.
very touching story to me, you know. And Caroline would say, "Call out if you're not well. Call out. Take
That is a
advantage of
big
that."
one. People
It's
think, "Oh, I'm gonna
huge.
get fired
No,
if I call out."
do not muscle through it. It's your voice. Advocate for
Um,
yourself. Take care advocating for
wow.
yourself. No, I don't think this is in my best interest. What young performer wants to say that?
Nobody.
Nobody wants to say it. Also, shame of vocal injury. That's another subject, but it
Yes.
is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge, and it is gradually shifting because
Yeah.
we've had some issues with performers keeping it a secret, and recently it's like, no,
No.
would a dancer not
No.
confess to having injured their knee in a
Yes.
show? No.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
So the other thing I would say about what you were talking about, protocols,
Mhm.
SOVTEs,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Those are to me as successful as any activity for vocal health.
Okay.
Short, short, shorty, short, short. You start your day that way. You do any of them. You do your lip trill, you do your tongue trill. I think the straw and water is great.
Mm.
The
Okay.
bubbles, where you
Yep.
do the bubbles either in deeper water or shallower water, depending, and you
Mhm.
keep the airflow smooth
Yeah.
and even and steady, and that is great protocol for keeping the voice healthy. And you do that 3 times a day. Cooling down with it is great. I'm
Wow.
big on that. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a huge fad now, but it has great benefits. It
So
has,
why not?
yeah, it's great benefits. So yeah, you probably, I can't remember who said this. I think it was this Teresa Brancato maybe
Yeah.
wrote something called Singer Savvy about
Okay.
budgeting, voice budgeting, and keeping track
I love that.
of what you use
Yep.
in a given day. And a freshman in college or first year, I'm not supposed to say freshman anymore, but
Yeah.
first year in college, and you go away on a choir
Yes.
weekend, right?
Mhm.
What shape are you in when you get back from that choir weekend? You,
Not very good.
right? Because you didn't budget, you're just having a ball.
No. And we're
You were,
also afraid of looking like divas and divos because the
well,
whole Celine Dion doesn't talk between shows. Oh, she's a diva. That's not
yeah, well,
true.
no,
She's taking
that
care of
is
herself.
because she is smart. So you
Smart
don't,
girl.
it's 100% true. That's so funny you
Yeah.
said that. Somebody said, oh, she's such a diva because they went to see
Right.
um, Titanic. Have you heard about this?
No.
Titanic is off Broadway, and it's all about jokes about Celine Dion.
Oh God.
I guess because she was like right on the ship or something,
Oh,
singing.
okay.
I
Titanic.
why
Okay.
I think she's fantastic.
I think she's
And
awesome.
how do you take care of yourself if you aren't quiet? Sutton
Right.
Foster, when she did Little Women,
Mhm.
which was another huge role,
Yep.
and you have to sing this song "Astonishing," which is not easy, said, "I after the show, I have to go home and stay home. I
Wow.
can't go out. I can't party. I have to be responsible for my obligation to my performance." And
Wow.
I think that is an important mindset
Mhm.
for artists is
Mhm.
you're putting a responsibility
Mhm.
first.
Mhm.
I'm having a great time. I'm going to go out and have drinks with my friends and we'll stay up, and then I have to go do 2 shows tomorrow. I have a matinee tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll be all right. That might work once or maybe twice, but
No, no. And
not
even
in a,
rock stars do it, but they don't sing back to back night after. They have breaks and then their tour and
and rock stars also, there's something different there
yeah.
because there's a tolerance for unhealthy vocal fold action.
Ooh,
Right. I mean, I say
right,
unhealthy. I didn't mean that in a super negative. Steven
no,
Tyler, for example, is a
right.
perfect example of somebody who's been treated by, who is that? Doctor in Boston who has treated him a million times, and he's become a real
Oh,
sort of
I don't know.
a poster kid for getting all
Interesting.
these treatments and continuing to sing. He always sounds like this is the last voice last sound he'll ever make. But for
I know.
rock, yeah,
It's perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
It's it works. He's one of my favorite of all time. I saw him
I
live and I
know.
was just like, "Oh boy, he
Yeah,
can
no, he's
out-sing
great.
me."
He's great. It's so fun. So fun. But that kind of doesn't hold up on Broadway
No,
for the most part.
no,
Right.
no.
Do you know who
What about yeah,
Alex
sorry.
Brightman is?
No, I
Alex
don't.
Brightman was in Beetlejuice, and Beetlejuice,
Okay.
he made these unbelievable sounds.
Oh,
When he
wow.
first made them, and you can read about him too. It's
I'm
all
I'm writing all these names down.
yeah,
I
no,
wanna talk to them.
It's fascinating because he changed the playing field because he confessed that he had had a huge injury as a result of making the sounds incorrectly as Beetlejuice. Do you know the
Oh,
story
no.
Beetlejuice? It's all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was making them actually on the vocal folds, and
Oh, no.
they have to be above
Mhm.
with
That
it,
would
you
just
know,
trash.
yeah.
Trash,
Hmm.
trash, trash.
So
Oh,
yeah, trash himself, but he confessed it. He got better, and he came back better than ever. So that is the story you want.
oh, I love
Is
him even more.
you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, yeah,
Because he can sound just as scary, strange,
yeah,
doing it the correct way
right.
as the wrong way.
That's a big
Right.
one, right? There's
You know what we call blood curdling screams that women
yes.
make really high?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
He was
that
doing that.
sound. That's that sound. So that's not on the vocal folds.
Oh my lord.
And it happens kind
Oh.
of automatically. I'm not going to do this online, sorry. But when you go up there and you
Are you sure?
it's that psycho scream, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
The voice is phenomenal, and
is
that's the
phenomenal.
thing that people that scares a lot of people away from voice lessons is that they don't wanna lose the colors and the things, but what they need to remember is there's a way to make that cool sound you love in a healthy way,
Yeah.
and that's what you can learn.
That's what you can
Okay,
learn. And
that's
you
what you
have to
can
look
learn.
for the specialists who can guide you.
Yeah.
Always look for the guidance. Don't
Mm.
the stuff that I was doing on my own, and even if I don't know, yeah, I did a lot of it. I think I made a lot of mistakes
Yeah.
because I didn't have guidance when I first started out. So
Mhm.
I remember one show that I did which was Eliza Doolittle. Now you think, oh,
Nice.
Eliza Doolittle, that's just your soprano mix, and you're going to be fine because it's what you always did. However,
Mhm. Ooh.
I made an acting choice that I did not
Ooh.
fully understand. That Eliza should be using a mode one quality, or at least more of it, when she was the flower girl singing. And I
Mm.
didn't understand that really because I didn't know what it entailed, and I know that I was using throat tension and I got some swelling, stuff happened, and
Right.
there was no guidance for me.
No.
So, I say this as a cautionary tale
Mhm.
because we
Mhm.
do need guidance. We need people who can say, "Okay, let's just see, is this what you're doing sustainable? How is it working?"
Mhm.
Someone who can really assess you from a distance. We need to be observed from the outside because what we
Ooh.
hear inside is not always telling us the right story.
Right. So are you saying that we need a coach while we're on
Oh,
the shows? Is
oh
that the
well,
person that would reflect that back, or is there someone in
it,
the shows that would reflect that back to you?
no, in my opinion, I think every show, Broadway or not, should have coaches hired, but producers don't
Yeah.
always do that. But
Yeah.
if you have your vocal teacher, that
Mhm.
teacher should stay with you and make sure that you have the show in hand. In my opinion, I
Mm.
mean, that's the ideal. Because if you
Right.
go and you have, I don't know what I'm doing. No, you need to know what you're
No.
doing.
No.
I mean,
Wow.
opera roles, those singers know what they are doing,
Yes. Yeah.
and they go in knowing what they are doing, and they
Mhm.
monitor themselves as hopefully they are also monitored constantly,
Mhm.
because you can't do the whole thing on your own. Nobody can do this
Mm.
alone. Teachers can't do it alone.
No.
And
No.
sometimes I will encounter a situation, and I know you have probably too, where you think, "I'm not sure what's going on here
Yes.
with this student. What is that?
Yep.
What's going on?" So
It's
then
new. Yeah.
you can recruit your colleagues who know more, who know about other aspects of things, who might see something you don't.
So
So
good.
valuable, so valuable.
And there we are full circle with the cross talking and the sharing of
Mhm.
knowledge and the
Sharing of knowledge.
it's like you did that on purpose, Mary. Wow.
Well, I guess I would have to say it's something that I'm uniquely, um, I invested in as a
Yeah.
teacher. I feel
Yeah.
as though it is very risky
Mm.
to, to close a door and say, "I'm going to just do my own thing here with this student."
Mm.
Because first of all,
Yeah.
you've gotta keep track of everything that's going on.
Mm. Mhm.
Listen to, and also we're busy evolving as a profession,
Mm.
aren't we?
Yes.
There's so
Yeah.
much happening.
Yes. You're
Because
always
when you
evolving.
think about, poor Patti LuPone, she was the first Evita.
Mm.
Nobody taught her how to sing that.
Nope.
And I was flipping out because I said, "Wait a minute, piano, F sharp? What?"
That's
She
wild.
she is singing a whole bunch of repeated F sharps in mode 1 chest. What? Chest dominant. Yep.
What?
So I
What?
just said, "What is going on there?" So that, yeah, so those are the kinds of things, and then when Wicked came around, I use these as examples
So good.
because they're such perfect examples of extreme voice use for women. The same
Mhm.
type of thing happens for, male singers too,
Right.
male
Yep.
voice, absolutely
Yep.
same type of thing. And then you have male singers singing female roles, and they have to accommodate to the same kinds of things that women do.
Wow.
So
Wow.
fascinating.
It's a
Yeah,
wild world. The
it's a
demand
wild world.
the demand is
It's a
and
wild world.
you have to be invincible and you
Yep,
have to be perfect.
yep.
You have to wow, okay. Well, that's why we need the guidance, and so thank goodness there's people like you out there. My
No,
gosh,
it's a
bravo,
privilege. 'Tis a
bravo.
privilege.
And on that note, you have some lovely books and DVDs. Can you talk about that real quick, Mary, before
Oh,
we
real
hang
quick,
up together?
there's just
Yeah.
a book I wrote with Norman Spivey from Penn State I told you about, Cross-Training
Mhm.
the Voice Studio, and that's
Mhm.
a very short book. It's
Mhm.
a very short book because we didn't even wanna write about technique because we thought, "Do you really wanna read about sounds, or do you wanna hear the sounds?"
Sure sounds,
I
yeah.
know, and that was our whole issue, and that was our sort of dissonance there.
Mhm.
We said, "What is this gonna be valuable?" So we did attach it to a DVD of
Yeah.
our students making the same sounds we were, promoting,
So good. Yeah.
including
It's so good.
including the one who just did Elphaba, she's on that. So we thought, "Okay, that'll be useful."
Yeah.
They'll hear them singing in their most legit, and we'll hear them singing in their most belty and their most speaky, and see what
Wow.
happens. Yeah,
Yep. Yep. And like you learned in your journey, it was imitation.
yeah,
You heard the sounds and you did it. So this is really valuable for folks that can't work with you one-on-one to get a glimpse into this world and the sounds that are made in this world and how you can cross-train and do whatever you want because we have a very phenomenal instrument, which
yeah.
is so exciting.
Don't
So
we? Don't we?
Bel Canto CAN Belto.com. Go and check Mary out, everybody. And oh my goodness, Mary,
Thank you.
it's been an absolute honor.
Thank
Absolute
you.
honor,
I
bucket
enjoyed
list
it.
moment. Thank you.
Had a
And
great
we'll
time.
have you back because there's so much to talk
You're
about.
very
So,
good at this. You're very good at
well,
this.
I'm gonna have a huge head and not be able to leave my studio. Thank you, my darling, and
Okay.
I will talk to you soon. Bye now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, wasn't that phenomenal? I hope she sticks around. She may have to go, but I wanna gab with her forever, and I wanna be best friends, so, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I know you got some amazing information from the show. Again, we're talking about the voice being super amazing and phenomenal and not giving you information to be super hyper vigilant and stressed out about. We're just opening the door, opening the mind a little bit more, and having a more well-rounded conversation about what voice is so that you can show up your full self and your best self in your best voice. So, until next time, oh my goodness, stay well, everybody. And you can check out our let me just see here. I'm going to be my own producer. Do, 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 do. You can check out our lineup on our YouTube channel, but it's also on our website, voxsana.co. And you can follow us on Facebook, voxsana.co. So until next time, everybody, stay well and keep those voices going because we need it. We need all the voices. Bye now.